Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the deeply fascinating and honestly incredibly complex life of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran. We're going to trace his journey chronologically, literally from his birth all the way to his death in exile, to really figure out the man behind the crown. Let's get right into it.
Now, to really set the stage here, take a look at these words. Iran is Iran. Its land, people, and history. Mohammad Reza spoke these words on his deathbed in Egypt. And what's really striking is that as he lay there dying, he actually kept a small bag of Iranian soil hidden right under his bed. It's a pretty powerful image of his intense nationalism.
So that brings us to the big question for today's explainer. Who exactly was the last Shah of Iran? And, well, how did he lose the Sun Throne? Because his story, it isn't just a standard run-of-the-mill biography. His life is totally intertwined with the turbulent history of modern Iran, not to mention the massive shifting tectonic plates of global geopolitics. Section 1. From Prince to King.
Mohammad Reza was born in Tehran, the eldest son of Reza Shah. Now, his dad wasn't born into royalty, far from it. He was a military colonel in the Cossack Brigade who took power in a 1921 coup d'etat, eventually proclaiming himself Shah and establishing the Pahlavi dynasty. In 1925, young Mohammad Reza was officially made crown prince. By 1931, he shipped off to the super-prestigious Institut Les Roses in Switzerland for his education. But his youth gets cut incredibly short. Fast forward to 1941, right in the middle of World War II, an Anglo-Soviet invasion forces his father to abdicate. Just like that, this abrupt international intervention thrusts a 21-year-old Mohammad Reza straight onto the throne.
It's actually really fascinating to look at his time in Switzerland. Back home, the crown prince was used to absolute deference, like he'd literally demand fellow students stand at attention when he walked past. But he learned a harsh lesson pretty quick, when an American student, well, simply beat him up. On top of that, school records noted his main issue playing competitive football was his timidity. Basically, he was afraid to take risks. Outside Iran, he realized real quick that he wasn't universally protected or revered.
Which brings us back to his sudden ascension in 1941. His early reign was incredibly precarious. He didn't have a strong political base at home, and he certainly didn't have the full confidence of the Allied forces occupying his country. In fact, the British were seriously considering bringing back the previous Qajar dynasty instead of letting him rule. But there was a catch. The main Qajar claimant, Prince Hamid Mirza, was an officer in the Royal Navy who just didn't speak Persian. No way around it. So because of that extreme language barrier, the British begrudgingly accepted the 21-year-old Mohammad Reza as Shah.
Section 2. The 1953 coup.
That shaky start set the stage for the defining crisis of his early reign. We're talking about a massive geopolitical showdown centered entirely around one huge asset, the British-owned Anglo-Iranian oil company. Let's break down exactly how this went down. Step 1. Iran's Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, with parliament support, votes to nationalize the oil industry to take back control of their reserves from the British. Step 2. Britain strikes back by instigating a devastating worldwide boycott of Iranian oil to absolutely crush the local economy. Step 3. British intelligence, MI6, teams up with the American CIA to orchestrate a coup and completely overthrow Mossadegh. The UK called it Operation Boot, and the US called it Operation Ajax.
200 to 300, that's the estimated human cost, the number of people who lost their lives during the violence of the August 1953 coup. The CIA actually paid mobs, busing men into Tehran in trucks to stage riots and take over the streets, which resulted in a really tragic, heavy loss of life in the capital. The aftermath of that coup completely changed the trajectory of Iran. Prime Minister Mossadegh was tried for treason and put under house arrest for the rest of his life. A new prime minister, General Fazlullah Zahedi, was installed. From that point on, the Shah really consolidated his power. He started ruling much more firmly as a pro-Western monarch, leaning heavily on U.S. support. And, as a direct consequence, those foreign oil companies made their return.
Section 3. Reforms and Repression.
This tighter grip on power leads us into an era of massive contradictions. On the modernization side of things, in 1963, the Shah launched what he called the White Revolution. These were absolutely sweeping, progressive changes meant to turn Iran into a modern global powerhouse. We're talking about breaking up huge estates to redistribute land to millions of peasant farmers. He gave women the right to vote. He mandated profit sharing for industrial workers, rolled out free nourishment programs for school children, and poured money into huge infrastructure projects, including the construction of nuclear facilities.
But we've got to look at the whole picture here.
That rapid modernization, it was counterbalanced by severe, brutal repression. The Shah absolutely did not tolerate dissent. His regime relied heavily on his secret police to keep an iron grip on the population. Liberal and democratic critics were jailed, killed, or forced into exile. And the crucial consequence here is this: by wiping out the democratic opposition, the only organized group left standing was the hostile Muslim clergy, led by the charismatic Ayatollah Khomeini.
Section 4. Revolution and Exile. Eventually, growing inequality between the rich and poor, combined with deep anger over government corruption and his autocratic rule, reached an absolute boiling point. Let's trace how fast he fell from the Sun throne. Throughout 1978, anti-imperial unrest grew so intense that martial law was declared in most major cities. The state apparatus was quite literally disintegrating in real time. By January 16, 1979, the Shah and his wife, Farah, had to flee Iran completely to escape a death sentence from the impending revolution. Just a year and a half later, in July 1980, he would be dead.
Those last few months were truly harrowing. The Shah and his wife spent over a year desperately looking for permanent asylum. Most countries were terrified to take them in, deeply fearing violent reprisal from Iran's new revolutionary government. Egypt's Anwar Sadat welcomed them at first, but they ended up bouncing restlessly from Morocco to Mexico. Eventually, the Shah traveled to the U.S. for specialized cancer treatment, and his admission into the United States was the direct spark that ignited the infamous Iran hostage crisis.
He ultimately went back to Egypt, where his health took a rapid nosedive from an infection following a splenectomy. And this brings us right back full circle to that tragic detail we mentioned at the very start of this biography. As he slipped into a coma and died at age 60, an exile, just like his father, he still had that little bag of Iranian soil tucked closely beneath his bed, a quiet, physical connection to a homeland he would never see again.
So what's the big takeaway here? I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought. By aggressively modernizing his nation, while simultaneously suppressing its democratic freedoms and hoarding absolute power, did the last Shah inevitably engineer his own downfall? It's a profound question about the mechanics of authoritarian power, and honestly, a complex legacy that is still shaping our world today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the history that shapes our present.